Hello and a very warm welcome to World Panorama on Rajya Sabha Television with me, Frank Pereira. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant events to have happened around the world this week. But first, a look at the headlines. Donald Trump completes 1 year in the White House. 1 year on, President leads divided U.S. into government shutdown. First year of Trump's presidency has been full of drama, dialogues and memorable moments. European leaders Tusk and Juncker woo Britain to stay in the EU. The bloc's chief says UK should rejoin EU after Brexit using Article 49. Juncker calls the exit of Britain a catastrophe and suggests he would like Britain to stay. Prime Ministers of India and Israel take bilateral relations to a new high of warmth and emotional connect. Visiting Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel believes in India. PM Modi says both countries can hugely gain from each other. And North and South Korea to march together in the Winter Olympics next month. Both nations also decide to form a unified ice hockey team. South Koreans express mixed feelings over the move. Well, the US government has careened into an embarrassing shutdown after senators failed to bring forward a stopgap motion to temporarily fund operations. The government ran out of money on Friday. An 11th hour effort to stave off the shutdown for 4 weeks fell well short in the Senate. It was a chaotic close to President Donald Trump's first year as president. He began the first anniversary of his inauguration on Saturday as the head of an administration that is out of funds. Here's a look back at 1 year of President Trump at the White House. Campaign trail to be the president, India was always on Donald Trump's mind.
If I'm elected president, the Indian and Hindu community will have a true friend in the White House.
So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
After taking over the reins of power on the 20th of January 2017, Trump revisited US policies on countries harboring terrorists. Announcing his South Asia and Afghanistan policy, Trump clearly enunciated India's bigger role as an ally of the United States. He also condemned terrorism emanating from Pakistan while suspending aid worth almost $2 billion.
Today, India and US have a far closer convergence on the issues of terrorism. So we have seen the unfolding of President Trump's robust South Asia policy, in which he has blamed Pakistan for hosting the terrorist groups. And when we talk about terrorist groups, it also includes terrorist groups which have been active against India. He has also declared a freeze on the military assistance to Pakistan unless Pakistan changes its behavior. So I think there is a far greater clarity today in the American policies on terrorism than was the case earlier.
From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
Acting on his election slogan of America First and Jobs to Americans, Trump announced curbs on immigration. His pronouncements on visa restrictions to visitors from many Muslim countries created a strong wave of resentment. Trump met the opposition, claiming that terrorists enter America legally and indulge in terrorist activities.
If we take such policies, America's popularity in these countries is going to go down. If America has, on one hand, it has very strong partnership with Saudi Arabia, and then you have these very restrictive policies on some countries, this will give a handle to some of these countries to become more anti-American.
Often enough, Donald Trump disappointed Indians with his announcements to curb the H-1B visa regime. but his administration has taken pains to state that it will not decrease the actual number of professionals going to the US in different professions. Trump also took the NATO allies head-on, persuading them to share the cost of the security umbrella that US provided to them. Trump even pulled out the US from the Climate Change Pact and managed to get the US isolated with his announcement to declare Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. At the end of his first year of presidency, the overwhelming verdict is that Trump is an unconventional American politician. It will be interesting to see how, in the coming days, his own relations with the world and the US media pan out. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha Television. Well, joining me for a chat now from Boston, United States is Nish Acharya, CEO Equal Innovation and Senior Advisor to the US Secretary of Commerce in the Obama administration. Welcome, Nish, and thank you for joining me on the program. How would you look back at 1 year of President Trump in the White House?
So I think it's been a year like America has never seen with its presidents. I think on the one hand, he tapped into something very real in the United States that stems from the insecurities of globalization and of technology and how people will work. And yet the results of the last year have been much more traditional corporate Republican policy. And so the achievement of the year was the tax cuts, which is very straightforward Republican orthodoxy. That's what the party believes, and they followed through on it and achieved the tax cuts. And of course, today we find ourselves with the shutdown, with the U.S. government shut down, and a lot of challenges related to that. So I think along the lines of a traditional measure, he really didn't achieve much in reality on the domestic side. On the international side, I think pulling out of Paris, pulling out of the Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement, and then just generally concerning allies and adversaries overall with his behavior has definitely changed the U.S.'s role as leader around the world. I think there was a poll today that the U.S. is considered more untrustworthy than ever before. So that's certainly a challenge.
There seems to be a rethink. There seems to be a rethink as far as Donald Trump is concerned, as far as pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord is concerned. He did mention about it a few days or a few weeks ago as well.
Yeah, well, I don't think the reality is nothing's happened either way. So originally when he pulled out of the Paris Agreement, there's been very little follow-up in terms of U.S. regulatory change or U.S. funding for climate change. And the latest budget hasn't really changed much yet because it hasn't passed. So more recently, when he made some comments, it was partly the realization that the U.S. is bound to certain commitments to Paris that it cannot get out of. And so he was just backtracking. So I think in the case of both statements, it's mostly talk still.
How are Americans looking at his unconventional style, something new that he brings to the table?
So I think there's two ways to think about that. One is him personally, and I think there the polls show that it's about 39%. So his core base of supporters supports him, and everybody else is fairly disappointed. On the other hand, the tax cuts are very popular, and the expectation of the tax cuts by the business community really gave the U.S. a booming stock market and the economy. We're seeing companies come back and invest in the U.S. So I think people are separating that the decision to cut taxes might be a very good thing for the U.S. economy with how they personally feel about Trump, which may not be as strong.
So the highlight for you, like you mentioned in your answer before as well, of course, is the tax cut. Let's move on now and talk about something else. You did bring up the issue of the government shutdown. What is it exactly, and how is it going to affect Trump and the people of the United States?
Right. So in the United States, the U.S. Congress has to appropriate and approve funding for federal agencies, and they've not been able to do so over several issues. One is health insurance for children, for poor children. Secondly, disaster assistance for the hurricanes that hit the states of Texas and other states, Puerto Rico. And then thirdly was this issue of providing the ability for children who came here in an undocumented way as children brought by their parents to stay in the United States and remain citizens. Now, on the issue of health care for children, poor children, and for disaster relief, there's generally agreement. But the problem is that President Trump requested Congress fix this problem about undocumented children called DACA. The children are referred to as the Dreamers before March. And to date, the Republicans have not done anything. And the Democrats have said, until you do something, we will not vote on the budget. And unfortunately, in the case of the budget, both parties, 60 votes have to be had in order for the budget to pass. So at this point, it's not clear what will happen. But right now, the government is shut down, with the exception of Social Security retirement checks and most of the United States military. But every other agency and function is on very limited capacity. And so until the president, the Republicans, and the Democrats can agree on these three things, the health insurance, the Dreamers, and disaster aid, with the Dreamers being the core issue, the United States government will stay closed.
And how long can that take?
Well, in 1996, when I was working in the President Clinton's administration, we were closed for 3 weeks. And it was only what's called essential services, so bare bones employees and security personnel. And it took 3 weeks. And for those 3 weeks, the federal government did not pay its employees. It did not pay its programs. Businesses that rely on the government were not paid. So it can be very traumatic for the U.S. economy. And we've seen it up to 3 years. 3 weeks, which is quite a long time. I would expect that this gets resolved within a few days, or at least they will, what we call, kick the can down the road for another month before making a decision.
All right, Nish Acharya, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, moving on now, of course, the President of the European Commission has said that he would like Britain to rejoin the European Union after Brexit using the little-known treaty clause, Article 49. Speaking at the European Parliament in Strasbourg, Jean-Claude Juncker said that the exit of Britain is a catastrophe and suggested he would like Britain to stay.
European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said on Wednesday that he hoped Britain would rejoin the European Union after it has left next year. Speaking to the European Parliament, the EU chief executive, who will step down in late 2019, noted that the Union's treaty provided not only for the exit but also for admission to the bloc with the Lisbon Treaty's Article 49, which allows a return to membership.
Auch wenn die Briten einmal ausgetreten sind.
Even if the British have left under Article 50, there is still Article 49 which allows a return to membership. And I would like that. I would like us now to treat each other reasonably and not abandon each other.
Juncker also said he felt Brexit was a catastrophe for which all have to take responsibility for.
Ich empfinde nach wie vor den Austritt Großbritanniens.
I still feel the exit of Britain is a catastrophe, yes, a defeat we all have to take responsibility for. But the reason for the British exit lie deeper. As Prime Minister May has said, the British never felt at ease in the European Union, and for 40 years they have not been given the opportunity to feel more at ease. That is why the blame is on many.
The comments came a day after he endorsed a statement by European Council President Donald Tusk that Britain would be welcome to remain.
If the UK government sticks to its decision to leave, Brexit will become a reality with all its negative consequences in March next year, unless there is a change of heart among our British friends. Wasn't it David Davis himself who said, if a democracy cannot change its mind, it ceases to be a democracy? We here on the continent haven't had a change of heart. Our hearts are still open to you.
Meanwhile, the Scottish regional government upped its calls for Britain to stay in the EU single market. It said Scotland will suffer an 8.5% hit to the size of its economy by 2030 if Britain leaves the European Union with no trade deal. Business investment in Scotland could fall by up to 10.2% compared with continued membership of the EU in the event of no Brexit deal, the devolved Scottish Government said in an economic impact assessment published on Monday.
Under the so-called no-deal option, a WTO-based relationship, our GDP will be 0.5% lower by 2030 than if we were to remain in the EU. That is equivalent to £12.7 billion, or £2,300 for every person in Scotland. Under this option, real disposable income would also be 9.6% lower and business investment 10.2% lower.
British Prime Minister Theresa May revealed through a spokesperson that she is determined to follow through on Brexit. The UK and the EU concluded the first stage of Brexit negotiations in 2017. The two sides will discuss a range of topics, including arrangements for the transition period and trade agreements in the following stage. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now. Still to come, North and South Korea to march together under a single unified Korea flag in the Winter Olympics. Both nations agreed to field a joint women's ice hockey team at the Games. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
See, we are thinking of using all domains of space technology in all aspects of agriculture. We can use experts sitting here and giving training to farmers or solving the farmers' problem through satellite communication. That will be a big achievement. In Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, it has been mandated that all the crop cutting data experiments should be collected using smartphones. So your time concept is gone, the delay is gone, and you are getting a digital data. You can do host of analysis on that. That's a big achievement.
Watch Eureka with Dr. Shibendu Shankar Ray, Director, Mahalanobis National Crop Center, New Delhi, only on Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that India and Israel are ready to take their relationship to greater heights through mutual opportunities. He said this while addressing the India-Israel Business Summit along with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The two leaders also held delegation-level talks on Monday on the second day of Netanyahu's visit to India. The bonhomie between the two leaders was visible through the six-day visit of the Israeli Prime Minister.
At the end of their delegation-level talks, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and visiting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a joint statement.
First, we will strengthen the existing pillars of cooperation in areas that touch the lives of our people. These are agriculture, science and technology, and security.
Israel is a fountainhead of innovation. It's a global force of technology. India abounds with creativity, with ingenuity, with scientists, with mathematicians. And I think that when we join our respective talents together, we can achieve tremendous things for our people. We can actually achieve, you say we want more. Prime Minister Modi and I are the same. We want more for our people. We want it now. We want it yesterday.
Earlier, both sides held discussions ranging from cooperation on terrorism to agriculture and innovation. They signed 9 agreements in various fields. The agreements were on cybersecurity cooperation, petroleum and oil sector cooperation, protocol amendment, airport transfer agreement, film co-production, Council of Research on Homeopathy and Ayush, space science technology, letters of intent for investments in both countries, letters of intent in metal technology and solar technology.
We have imparted our shared impatience to the implementation of our earlier decisions. The results are already visible on the ground. Our discussions today were marked by convergence to accelerate our engagement and to scale up our partnership.
Netanyahu also praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi, calling him a revolutionary leader with an unparalleled zeal to help the Indians. Modi responded by calling the relationship with Israel the relationship of the century.
You are a revolutionary leader, in the best sense of the word revolution. You are revolutionizing India. You're catapulting this magnificent state into the future, and you have revolutionized the relationship between Israel and India.
Your visit, Prime Minister, is a long-anticipated moment in the journey of friendship between India and Israel. Your visit is also a fitting climax to the commemoration of 25th year of diplomatic relations between India and Israel.
In their first summit meeting this year, both leaders also reviewed the progress of relations between the two countries. Condemning the menace of terrorism in the strongest possible words, Netanyahu said Israel will always stand by India on the issue.
Indians and Israelis know too well the pain of terrorist attacks. We remember the horrific savagery in Mumbai. We grit our teeth. We fight back. We never give in.
Later, both Prime Ministers also took part in the India-Israel CEO Forum meet, where a report was presented on the prospects of further cooperation among industries.
Both the Prime Ministers were quite at ease, and spark in their eyes were telling the story that there is no glitch in the relationship. The relationship of the future is fructifying.
In the morning, the Israeli Prime Minister was given a ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, North and South Korea will march together under a single unified Korea flag at next month's Winter Olympics to be held in South Korea. Both nations also agreed to field a joint women's ice hockey team after rare talks at the Truce village of Panmunjom. These are the first high-level talks between the two Koreas in more than 2 years. The games will take place between 9th and 27th February in Pyeongchang in South Korea. Two Koreas will field a combined women's ice hockey team and march together under one flag at next month's Winter Olympics in the South. The news was announced on Wednesday after a new round of talks amid a thaw in cross-border ties.
South and North Korea will march together under one flag at the opening ceremony of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics and field a combined women's ice hockey team.
Chun Hae-sung, the South's chief negotiator in the talks, made the announcement at a press conference and said both countries would participate in joint cultural events and training for their ski teams.
Prior to the Games, North and South Koreas will carry a joint cultural event at the Mount Kumkam Resort and joint training for North and South Korean skiers at the North Masik Pass Resort.
South Koreans, however, expressed mixed feelings over North Korea's participation in the Winter Olympics amid easing tensions after a months-long standoff over the North's weapons programs.
North Korea has been frozen due to their serious nuclear development. I am worried about how international society recognizes us by accepting North Korea's proposal. So I personally hope that we would not accept them. If the two Koreas organize a joint team and play games together, it can improve our image as the international community has worried over the tensions. It is also a good chance for us to start negotiations for politics or other issues by making them first in sports.
Meanwhile, China praised North and South Korea on Thursday after the two countries announced plans to march together under the same blue and white Korean peninsula flag at the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Lu Kang said feelings of kinship between North and South could be seen calling on the international community to encourage more constructive efforts aimed at easing tensions on the peninsula.
We can also see the feelings of kinship between the North and the South. We see both sides meet each other halfway and show goodwill to each other. We see that the constructive effort has been made in order to improve the relationship and ease tensions in the peninsula. I have said it before and would like to reiterate that the international community should encourage this.
North and South Korea have been talking since last week about the Olympics offering a respite from a months-long standoff over Pyongyang's pursuit of nuclear and missile programs, although Japan urged caution over the North's charm offensive. The two Koreas will compete as a unified team in the Olympics for the first time, though they have joined forces at other international sports events before. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. And finally, London's dark winter nights shone a little brighter starting Thursday as a nighttime art exhibition featuring a range of publicly displayed works that use light as a medium got underway. Lumiere London features over 50 works by British and overseas artists located in public spaces, buildings and on the streets. I'm going to leave you with these visuals from London. Until next time, this is Frank Pereira signing off.